All right, Katharine, what do you say? I think we're at 21, so we're gonna get started here.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Thanks everybody for joining. My name is Josh Hand. If you don't know who I am, I sit on ERAC, so I help put together events, which right now we're virtual, so we're doing a lot of Knowledge at Noon, so thanks for joining. Today we have a really exciting Knowledge at Noon Lehigh Sustainability Strategic Plan Showcase, 10 years, 6 focus areas, and 113 goals. The presenters today, as you probably already know, Katharine, Miki, and Erin, they're going to talk to you more about the strategic plan that goes through 2030 and what that plan means to Lehigh. You'll have some ability to ask questions. I'm going to monitor the chat as we go, and you're going to be able to learn more about how you can get involved. At the end, we'll have some questions as well. So if you want to save your questions for the end, that's fine too. But feel free, like I said, to add them into the chat as we go. We're recording this, so if anybody that you know is missing this, that wants to see it, or you want to go back and look back through it, that'll be available to you at the end here. So with that said, I think, Katharine, you're starting.
Great. Thanks, Josh.
Yep.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us over your lunch today, and welcome to Lehigh's Campus Showcase for the Sustainability Strategic Plan 2030. My name is Katharine Targett Gross, and I am the Sustainability Officer at Lehigh. And I'm really thrilled that you've joined us today to understand what this plan means for Lehigh and to ask questions. This 10-year plan is really based on a vision of an inclusive Lehigh community where sustainability is an integral part of our institutional ethos. As I've mentioned, but for those of you who may have just joined, we will be using Mentimeter for audience engagement. So if you can please go to menti.com and use the code at the bottom right of this slide to answer some questions. Audrey has also put it in the chat box as well. And with that, I'd like to introduce, we have one additional speaker, Ben Davis, who has joined us as well. He's a Lehigh Sustainability Council member. So I'm joined today by Audrey McSain, Miki Sankary, Erin Karahuta, and Ben Davis. And I'll now just turn it over to each of them to give a brief introduction. So Audrey, I'll start with you.
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Audrey McSain, and I'm the Sustainability Program Manager here at Lehigh. I'm about 1.5 years into my role here, and I'm just really excited that I was able to be, part of the team that was able to form and release the strategic plan here. So happy you're all here today.
Thanks, Audrey. Ben?
Hey everyone, Ben Davis. I am a 4th-year PhD student in materials science and engineering. My research revolves around materials for solar cells, so I've kind of always been into the sustainability thing. Now I represent the graduate students on the council.
Great, thank you. Erin?
Hi, my name is Erin Karahuta, and I'm a member of the Office of Research Integrity, which is part of the graduate and research STEM, and so that's the area that I'm representing. And I've been a member of the Sustainability Council for about the past 2 years, and I've been in my current role for a little short of 3 years.
Thanks, Erin. And Miki?
Hi everyone, my name is Miki Sankary. I am the Associate Director of Development for Entrepreneurship and Creative Inquiry, and that is all to say I represent the Development and Alumni Relations Office on the Lehigh Sustainability Council. I've been here since fall of 2017, and started off with a greening the office kind of program certification, and then finding myself involved with connecting alumni specifically to the Office of Sustainability here. So I'm really thrilled to be part of this process.
Great, thanks, Miki, and thanks to the whole panel for joining us today. So our agenda today, I'm going to go over the goals of the showcase. We'll talk about what sustainability is. I'll give you a brief overview of sustainability at Lehigh. We'll do a deeper dive into the 2030 plan. And then we have a panel discussion with the 3 LSC members who have joined us, and then we will open it up to audience Q&A. Okay.
All right. So before we dive into the presentation itself, we'd like to know a little bit about you. So please go ahead and tell us if you're staff or a faculty member. We just want to get a sense of who all is in the virtual room with us today.
We figured it would be pretty staff dominant,
Yes.
given that it was an ERAC knowledge at noon, but just wanted to see. Sometimes we have some faculty as well join us.
Great. So far, solidly staff. Awesome. And then the second thing that we want to know is, how did you hear about this event? We often try to get the word out through several different avenues. And so, yeah, we're curious to see how you heard about us today. Okay, great. Mainly ERAC. Awesome. Word of mouth, that's always nice to see.
Yeah, definitely. So the goals for our time together today are to give some context for sustainability at Lehigh, learn about what the 2030 plan means for Lehigh, hear from a panel of Lehigh Sustainability Council members, ask questions, and learn how you can get involved, as well as develop a sense of connection and community despite this virtual environment that we're currently in. So what is sustainability?
So this is a question that we often ask our students and students that we're inviting to work for our office and for other leadership positions. But we're curious, like, what comes to mind when you all think of sustainability? I think you should be able to enter thoughts multiple times. So yeah, we're
like
curious.
A word or a phrase.
Yeah. And sustainability is quite a broad term, so I don't think any answer would be incorrect here. It's very diverse. Okay, so far we're focusing on environmental sustainability, which is all good stuff. Composting, friendly. Okay, so a good amount of things are focused on waste right now, which is important. Saving money, climate change. Ooh, recycling is really the big one there. Not surprising at all. It's all good. Very good. Maintaining status quo. Resiliency, that's a good one. Responsibility.
We had someone say in the chat, renewable resources.
Yeah.
As well.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it looks like recycling and responsibility have kind of bubbled up to the top. We see responsibility quite often. Recycling is also a fairly common response as well. And I like to do this exercise because I think it sets the stage for talking about, when we think about sustainability at Lehigh, what do we mean? So oftentimes people think of environmental stewardship. They think of water usage, waste, recycling, greenhouse gas emissions, which is all kind of the environmental aspect of sustainability. But at Lehigh, we think about the broader aspect. And so this Venn diagram shows that sustainability is really the integration of social equity, environmental stewardship, and economic prosperity. And it's at that intersection where you have true sustainability. So we like to think about sustainability as a three-legged stool. You have to have each of the three legs in order for the stool to stand. Otherwise, the stool tips over. So our vision and mission. So the Office of Sustainability was created in 2010, really with the purpose of centralizing sustainability initiatives and reducing Lehigh's environmental footprint. At Lehigh, we envision an inclusive community where sustainability is an integral part of our institutional ethos, where we inspire ecologically sound, socially just, and financially prudent action that not only improves the well-being of people, but also the environment. And it's by addressing our global climate challenges and really embracing our responsibility to be a model sustainable campus where we are able to contribute to the health of our planet as a whole.
All right, and we've got another question ready for you. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how supportive do you think Lehigh's current culture is of sustainability? So you can see we've got unsupportive all the way through very supportive. Okay, seems like the middle ground is what's emerging right now. And I'd say that this is pretty on par with other presentations that we've done, Katharine.
Yeah, it is. And it's one of the things, creating that culture and that ethos is one of the goals of the 2030 plan, and really enhancing that going forward with the next presidential administration at Lehigh as well.
And when you think about Lehigh sustainability, what are some things that Lehigh could do to improve this sustainability culture that we are working to build?
I think you can enter words or phrases, right?
Food waste is a big one. Divestment. I know that's a hot topic here at Lehigh. Yes, lots on waste. That's great. Automatic lighting. Yeah, motion sensors and such.
These are great. A lot of these are captured in the 2030 plan goals. So I'm sure you'll be interested and excited to hear how we'll be addressing many of these, many if not all of these in the coming years. And we've actually, just for composting, we've started a pre-consumer composting pilot with Lehigh Facilities and Lehigh Dining at the University Center. We started that at the beginning of February, and the hope that we'll be able to expand that to other locations and to post-consumer composting as well. Oops. So sustainability is a strategic initiative at Lehigh. It has the support of senior leadership. These are quotes from President Simon, Nathan Urban, and Pat Johnson about the 2030 plan. And it's the hope that as we're working, our 2030 plan was signed off and approved by senior leadership and by the Board of Trustees, and to be able to transition that to the next president as well. So it was really important that we had the support of Pat Johnson and Nathan Urban so that they can help with that transition when that happens. So these are just some key milestones. Sustainability initiatives at Lehigh are not new. They were happening before the Sustainability Office was created in 2010. And this just shows some of the key milestones. So Lehigh enhanced its focus on sustainability and climate impact in 2009 with the drafting and signing of Lehigh's climate commitment. We've built on that initial commitment with the 2012 Campus Sustainability Plan and our 2020 Campus Sustainability Plan, which was adopted in 2016. We've now in 2020 adopted our 10-year Sustainability Strategic Plan, which we'll be talking about today. And we also in 2020 signed a collaborative virtual power purchase agreement to procure renewable energy from an offsite solar array that's being built. And so that will offset about 90% of our electricity emissions. And we just signed an agreement for an on-site solar array, which will offset approximately the remaining 10%. So we expect by 2023 for Lehigh electricity emissions to be 100% renewable. So before we dive into the 2030 plan, I just wanted to provide some brief historical context. So since 2010, Lehigh has adopted 2 sustainability plans prior to the most recent one. The 2012 plan really marked Lehigh's first institutional roadmap for this important priority. The 2020 plan built off of the progress of the first plan. It was released in 2016 and all of the goals mapped to last year, to 2020. So it's with that where we started a year-long strategic planning process that has culminated in the development and release and adoption of our Sustainability Strategic Plan 2030. So let's dive a little bit more into our current plan. So it's a 10-year plan, 6 focus areas, 113 goals, near-term, intermediate term, and long-term goals. It really involved an interdisciplinary and interdepartmental strategic planning process that not only considered the internal Lehigh community, faculty, staff, students, but also engaged with the Lehigh alumni and greater Bethlehem community. The plan is also fully integrated across Lehigh. We had numerous meetings with departments to have ownership of the goals throughout the plan. So this is not the Office of Sustainability's plan. This is very much Lehigh's plan. And it will improve operational efficiencies and promote cost savings while also establishing a stronger culture of sustainability on campus. And it will also have a positive impact on our students, which is important. So just briefly, the year-long strategic planning process involved 5 main steps. The first, we started with a thorough benchmarking exercise of sustainability plans at other colleges and universities to understand the full spectrum of opportunity so that we could decide and sort of define at Lehigh where we wanted to go with this plan. Second, we assessed the current state. We needed to know where we were in order to figure out where we wanted to go. So we looked at both the operational side of the institution as well as the academic sides to establish a baseline. Third, we engaged the campus community pre-COVID. In February of last year, we had a number of campus sessions that were open to faculty, staff, and students, workshops, where we were able to engage in these workshops they were able to engage to help shape the plan. And then the Lehigh Sustainability Council, including the 3 members that are with us today, were also involved throughout the process. Fourth, we created an alumni advisory council, kind of similar to the dean's advisory councils within the colleges, to help shape the plan. And so that council still exists today. We have 11 alumni on our Sustainability Alumni Advisory Council. And then lastly, we determined the 6 focus areas of the plan and held numerous meetings with administrative departments and colleges to establish the 113 goals and get buy-in. So as I've said a couple of times, the 2030 plan has 6 focus areas, as you can see here. Each of the goals within these 6 focus areas align with one or more of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. That was really important to us because Lehigh has a strong partnership with the United Nations, but also it's important for us to show how our efforts on campus really roll up at the global level and have an impact, and how they tie in was really important as we developed this plan. Just briefly, so as many of you are probably aware, Lehigh has a very strong partnership with the United Nations. Through this partnership, Lehigh has the opportunity to work on a number of sustainability related projects, including the Sustainable Development Goals. In the fall I guess it was 2020, the Lehigh University United Nations Partnership and the Office of Sustainability launched a campus-wide UN Sustainable Development Goals initiative, offering programming to highlight all 17 goals. So it's really due to this strong affiliation that we aligned our goals with one or more of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So you'll see that in the table at the end of the 2030 plan. So before we open it up to the panel, I just have one slide on each of the 6 focus areas, and I just kind of wanted to give a little bit of a deeper dive of each focus area, what it involves, and I highlight a couple of the goals within each focus area. So within climate action, there's two main sub areas, resiliency and greenhouse gas emissions. And this includes things like energy efficiency, renewable energy, and transportation. And it's really through energy efficiency measures, energy conservation, renewable energy sourcing, and energy management that Lehigh is proactively reducing its campus greenhouse gas emissions and mitigating global climate change. So just a couple of the highlights. We're in the process right now of developing a climate action strategy that will establish a carbon neutrality date for Lehigh. I also mentioned that we will be offsetting 100% of Lehigh's electricity consumption with renewable energy by 2023. We'll also be working on a resiliency assessment. So not only thinking about climate resiliency, but also thinking about business continuity planning and kind of the challenges we had with COVID-19 could be integrated into that resiliency plan. And then developing a plan to fully transition our campus fleet to run exclusively on renewable energy by 2030. In terms of educational experience, so we break it down into three areas: academic integration, experiential learning, and research. And we as an institution, we are developing and empowering the leaders of tomorrow. So it's by integrating sustainability into our educational experience where we are preparing our students to solve today's challenges and tomorrow's challenges. And so, some of the highlights are conducting a sustainability literacy assessment of the entire student body to identify gaps and to not only identify gaps, but determine how we can fill those gaps going forward. We've created and launched a Campus Sustainable Impact Fellowship program, which is a hands-on experiential learning program for our students related to campus sustainability projects, ensuring that at the college level, that sustainability is considered and thought about as part of the college level sustainability strategic plans. And as part of that, ensuring that every college has a sustainability learning outcome. So as we see more and more businesses and governments and NGOs emphasizing sustainability competencies, even for jobs that have nothing to do with sustainability, it's really important that we're weaving that into our curriculum and into the learning outcomes in each college. Campus operations. So this is by far the largest focus area in the plan. It has 7 sub areas that you can see here. And it's really everything from the built environment to land stewardship to waste, water, purchasing, connections, and mobility that Lehigh is seeking and embracing new and alternative ways to operate. So it's enhancing operational efficiencies. How can we save money, all the while increasing the overall well-being of the university? Culture and engagement. So we have 3 sub areas here: communications, campus involvement, diversity, inclusion, and equity. And it's by engaging the campus community to embrace diverse perspectives, cultivate environmental stewardship, and it's one of Lehigh's top priorities. So through weaving sustainable practices into all levels of the institution, the idea is that we'll be fostering a sustainability or a sustainable culture. So making sure that sustainability is included in Lehigh's annual report, that the metrics of the progress we're making are included. Several goals around diversity, inclusion, and equity, and ensuring that we are doing our part to become an anti-racist institution. And then looking at our student engagement program, more fully integrating our ERAC leadership program, which is our peer-to-peer sustainability student leadership program, and then also expanding our sustainable office program, which is our program for faculty and staff to increase the sustainability of their office spaces. Health and wellness, this is a new area within, we have not had this in our 2 previous plans, but we thought that it was really important, especially given the new College of Health at Lehigh. This has 3 areas: food, well-being, and healthy infrastructure. And we understand that health and the quality of life can greatly impact employee satisfaction, student engagement, and productivity. So this area addresses things like providing healthy food choices, enhancing our employee wellness program, purposeful landscapes and building designs. And it's through all these efforts that Lehigh is creating opportunities to improve health and wellness of faculty, staff, and students. So right now we're working on developing and implementing a sustainable and healthful food purchasing policy. We're working to increase participation in Lehigh's wellness program. We'll also be looking at sustainable catering standards, as well as eliminating single-use plastic, soda and water bottles, and other single-use plastics on campus. I know that was one of the comments, and what can we do better? And those are definitely addressed. And then how can we partner with a local farm and pilot a community-supported agriculture program on campus? Many private companies do it, other institutions do it. So how can we bring that to Lehigh? And then the last focus area is focused leadership. So this is based on external partnerships, finance and investments, commitments and accountability, and alumni relationships. So Lehigh is really aiming to position itself as a local and global leader in sustainability and be a model sustainable campus in higher education. So it's through all of these areas where Lehigh will be able to seek and embrace new solutions that support long-term sustainable change. So establishing principles of a sustainable campus community, developing an early career mentorship program. This is something that we've been hearing about from our students. Ranking in the top 100 of Sierra Club Coolest Schools list is very important to us. And then ASHE Stars, which is our sustainability and higher education reporting. We've been silver for the last 4 years, so we're looking to move to gold and then ultimately platinum. So all things there. So, but all of this is great. We have 113 goals, lots of progress, but if you can't manage what you don't measure. And that's what Peter Drucker has famously said. And the university's success in achieving its sustainability goals will be measured by a set of metrics and other indicators. That was a very important part of our process in developing this plan. And so Lehigh will also not only measure ourselves against those metrics, but we'll continue to use external benchmarking tools like ASHE Stars or Sierra Club Coolest Schools to show our progress against our peers over time. This is an example scorecard. So again, it's just an example, but we will be releasing a scorecard every year for our 2030 plan to be able to show the progress we've made. So it'll have the goal, what UN Sustainable Development Goals that it ties to, what our progress is, and what our immediate next steps are. Sustainability metrics. So this table, it's pretty extensive in the back of the plan, but if this is an example of one page, so you can see that each goal has a specific metric tied to it. So we show how we'll measure our progress over time. And then each goal also has a lead department or departments who are charged with leading the execution on each specific goal. We have all of this stuff up on our website, so I encourage you to check it out, sustainability.lehigh.edu. The first thing you'll see, I believe, when you get on the website is a scrolling photo that has a link to our Sustainability Strategic Plan 2030. So just tying it all together, like why does all of this matter? Why should we care about sustainability? Why even have a 10-year Sustainability Strategic Plan? It's not only critical from an environmental perspective to combat global climate change, but it's also relevant and important because what we're seeing is that Gen Z sees sustainability as integral to their values in terms of their lifestyle and career. There was a Princeton Review survey that showed that 69% of students said having information about a college's commitment to sustainability and environmental issues would contribute to either their decision to apply to the school or attend the school. And we're also seeing, as I mentioned earlier, that sustainability is becoming more central to the strategies of business and government. And so employers are increasingly emphasizing those sustainability competencies, even for jobs that aren't focused on sustainability. So with that, I am going to turn it over to the panel and to Audrey.
Great, thank you, Catherine. And it looks like we have just a little over 25 minutes. So we'll probably spend the next 10, maybe 15 minutes in the panel discussion. Then we'll open it up to all of you to be able to ask any questions that you might have for us. So again, our panelists today are Ben Davis, Erin Karahuta, and Miki Sankary. Catherine, of course, will also be participating in the panel as well. So going ahead and getting started here. The last two sustainability plans spanned over 4 years, as Catherine had mentioned earlier, and this new plan looks ahead about 10 years. And so what was the rationale behind creating a longer term plan?
So longer term plans are becoming more and more common among higher learning institutions in general. And big part of the reason for that is because having a longer plan actually allows you to be more ambitious with the goals you're setting. Like making these institutional changes takes time. So with 10 years to plan out and look ahead, we can do things like set a carbon neutrality date and take steps for its success and convert the whole campus vehicle fleet to renewable energy and transition research into an open access infrastructure, among other things.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Erin. Go ahead.
Another goal I'd throw in there that Catherine, you already highlighted, but that zero waste goal, which by 2030, which the feedback that I get from a lot of my colleagues that I work with is that's kind of the thing that bugs them the most. So I think being able to, really integrate these concerns that people on campus have by looking toward this longer timeline, I think is really useful.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that and say, the part of these goals that we have are so ambitious, and it's going to push Lehigh to be the leaders in higher ed institutions. But part of the challenge is actually measuring that progress. And so, I mean, like Catherine mentioned in her presentation, it does take multiple departments. In the metric table at the very end, you see lead departments. A lot of the times it's more than one department that's kind of spearheading or even accountable to actually achieve those metrics. So I think it takes a village, and a lot of times that time it takes to actually input the data and see that progress over time. It takes a lot of time and effort and collaboration. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the phrase "it takes a village" applies well to this situation as well. And I think that's a pretty good segue into the next question, which is, how were you and other Lehigh Sustainability Council members involved in the strategic planning process?
I think the way that we were kind of most directly involved, especially at the very beginning, was we had 2 big meetings, I think in December 2019 and then in January 2020, where we reviewed other institutions' plans and kind of took some inspiration from their plans, kind of noticed things that we didn't like so much about their plans to help us structure our vision for the plan. And identify the broad areas that we wanted to highlight in our plan. And then at subsequent meetings, we kind of tailored or at least brainstormed some of the specific goals that would fall under each of the broader categories. And I think one of the really cool things about this process is that the Sustainability Council is really large, and I feel like it has great representation across pretty much all areas of campus, like undergrads, graduate students, staff, faculty from all different departments. So I really feel like really diverse ideas were put into the brainstorming for the plan.
Yeah, I remember when we used to all cram into one of the UC lunchrooms, and we had the paper on the walls and the markers, and we all split up into different groups, and we talked about we had our homework to read our peer institution strategic plans, and then we came into the room, and what was really, I think, that stood out was that we all had very similar outcomes in results in our discussions, and some of the key areas that you see in the focus areas in the plan are because of the direct discussions that we've had in our LSC meetings, but then also in the ideation sessions. Some of you may have actually attended those campus-wide workshops that we had, and those key points that you'll see in the implementation goals and things like that, those are because so many people have reiterated that, echoed that it is an important part of it. So it's been an exciting process to see from the very beginning, sitting on the council, thinking of, okay, what would be a plan that could really reflect what Lehigh is wanting to do, rather than, looking at Harvard's or Yale's or Princeton's and saying like, okay, there's a lot going on there, but what can Lehigh do to still push the envelope forward? I think that's what you'll see in the plan. The other thing that I'll add is, because of my work with alumni relations and working with other alumni that have tapped us to say like, okay, what is Lehigh doing on that sustainability front? And you've been buzzing a little bit over time. With the past strategic plans or the sustainability campus plans, but then what has happened with the Lehigh alumni community? And that's where this culmination in this movement that Katharine has spearheaded, we are seeing a formalized group of alumni that have time and time again said, I will volunteer my time and expertise to make sure that these plans are actually seen through. So it's been exciting to see that angle of the Lehigh community really get energized up from it.
Yeah, the Office of Sustainability has really demonstrated a commitment to having representation from all different aspects of the university community really have a say in this. Like on the council, I've been able to bring up some student concerns, like something we alluded to before, which is Lehigh's continued investment into fossil fuels. And I was really grateful to see my concerns reflected in the final version of the plan as it's been released, as I've seen many of the concerns of other council members and also from the ideation sessions you guys were talking about.
Great, thank you. And
Audrey, I'm just going to jump in here. We do have a question in the chat. Deb Martin asked, have the challenges presented by the pandemic changed the university's priorities related to the 2030 plan?
so Josh, it's funny that question pops up, because that's actually one of the questions for the panelists. So I'm glad that someone in the audience is thinking about that too. And so that leads perfectly into the next question. So I think we're all pretty well acquainted with the fact that the last year has been pretty tumultuous due to the pandemic and a growing awareness of racial injustices amongst other things. And so was there any point in the development stages of the plan that things needed to pivot to adjust to the times that we're currently in?
So I think we made, from the beginning of the pandemic, we made a really conscious effort to stay the course, given that this is a long-term 10-year strategic plan. There were definitely some goals that were pushed back a year or two because of COVID-19, but there were others that were pushed up because of COVID-19. Just some examples of that, like the flex place and remote work goal. COVID-19 really pushed that ahead. So that moved ahead a year or two because we really saw the need to have a formal flex place and remote work policy. HR saw that need. So that will be ready to be rolled out as soon as things roll back, as soon as things go back to normal. Another example of a goal that was moved up was resiliency planning. So as I said, that's not only climate resiliency and thinking about our infrastructure and stuff like that, but it's also business continuity planning so that what happened with COVID-19, we're more prepared to be agile and to adjust to it. But then there's also goals like some of the waste goals, the waste characterization study, which will help us map out a plan to become a zero waste campus ultimately, as well as some of the goals around eliminating single-use plastics. Those were delayed a year or two because we need to have baseline data, waste data that we can look at to see where the issues are and things like that. So because our data has been all messed up because of COVID-19 and not having everyone on campus, some of those were delayed by a year or two. And then in terms of the racial injustices piece, like from the beginning, like one of the pillars of sustainability is social equity. So we worked closely with the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity to integrate goals into our culture and engagement section. And so we really wanted this 10-year plan to be based on a vision of an inclusive Lehigh community. And that was the case from the beginning. So some of the events, the racial injustices that we've seen over the last months or year that have really brought many of these issues to light, you know, we had plans well before that to incorporate that because social equity is one of the 3 pillars of sustainability. I don't know if Miki, Ben, or Erin, you want to add anything to that?
Well, you took the words out of my mouth and then some, but I just saw a question pop up in the chat that I think we can address now about whether DI&E issues are going to detract at all from having environmentally specific goals in the plan, to which I would say not at all. We've discussed in the council a lot just how interrelated these things are. In fact, if anything, I think addressing DEI reinforces the need to address environmental issues because of issues like environmental racism. You really can't have one without the other.
Great, thank you. And just in the keeping oh my gosh, being conscious of the time that we have together, I'm going to ask just one more question of the panelists, and then it'll be fully open to the audience. Obviously, there are 113 goals. We've got a decade to, you know, work through all of these things. And of course, it's not going to be without its challenges, but I'm really curious, like, what is something that you are most proud or excited about within the 2030 plan?
I think one of the really exciting things that I can't really take much credit for myself, but I'm really impressed with everyone who contributed to the plan more directly, is just how quantifiable all of the goals are and how well defined they all are. I think it's really impressive. I encourage you to take a look at the plan to just like see how well defined everything is, and you know exactly by which metrics all of the goals will be measured. So it really, I think, ensures that Lehigh will remain accountable for all of the goals. So maybe it doesn't seem like the flashiest piece of the plan, but I think it's the piece that really ensures that we'll be successful. And another piece that I'm excited about, just more in the short term, is something that Katharine also mentioned. Right now, I'm part of a subcommittee that is developing principles of our sustainable community to kind of mirror the principles of our equitable community that we all see posted around campus. And so I'm excited to be able to contribute to those. And I think it'll be a great tool for us to have as we kind of think about our behaviors every day and how we're contributing or not to sustainability. And I think it'll be an important step in improving the culture of sustainability on our campus.
Yeah, I would just piggyback with Erin and say, you know, talking about changing the ethos, and it's those intangible changes that you'll start to see. And that could be, you know, even amongst peers in your office that you're talking through a meeting, and it's those differences of whether, you know, those little changes that you do on a day-to-day basis, and that undercurrent is really what you'll start to see. And that's what I'm excited to see and hear, whether it's through, you know, working with library and technology services and working with them to figure out how do we automize printing, or, you know, minimize printing as much as possible. And I don't know, it's it's the intangible and the tangible parts of this plan that you'll start to really, you know, kind of pick up just by being able to read the plan. You'll see those keywords of maybe it's a transportation bike or electric bikes, right? And maybe you'll see those kinds of stations pop up in different parts of the campus. So those are the tangible things that you'll start to really notice, those incremental changes over this 10-year plan. But then it's also the cultural, you know, conversations that you're having with your day-to-day colleagues that you may be able to really contribute and say, you know what, the plan actually, we've got the leeway, we've got the leadership backing to make this little change in our office, and why not, right? And I think the plan gives you to empower you to have those conversations. And as a member in this community, I feel like that's what's really exciting to see, that everybody kind of takes ownership of this plan.
I would guess I would add to that too. One thing that I'm really proud of is the work that we did to make this interdisciplinary and interdepartmental and bring all of those stakeholders together to develop the goals with us. So it wasn't us saying, here are the goals, like, we need you to do this. It was very much like an iterative process where we were working with, you know, each of the lead departments to come up with goals that would be achievable, but still kind of a push. And I think that was where, when we were reflecting on our previous two sustainability plans, where I think we fell short was we weren't as collaborative and didn't as intentionally develop those goals together. And so with this plan, there is a lot more buy-in and commitment by those departments, because they were very much involved from the beginning in that goal development process.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, I'd like to say I'm both proud of and excited by the sheer level of ambition this plan puts forward. I suppose I'm thinking more of the tangibles here, but so when I consider that I have probably 1 to 2 years left in finishing up my PhD, that's a pretty limited time that I might be at Lehigh longer. And even in that relatively short time, based on the timetables set by the strategic plan so far, as I expect to witness more sustainable change at Lehigh in that time than I ever have at any other institution.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Catherine, we have a little under 10 minutes left. So is there anything else with the presentation?
I think so. Are there any other questions, audience questions?
Brian has his hand raised.
I'm a Zoom pro now, guys.
Gotta show off.
So first, I just want to say thank you so much. Like, the work that all of you've done to put this together, it's incredibly important for our institution to buy into these goals and to really make an effort to be more sustainable. So, and I know this is like tireless work. Hopefully you will see the fruits of your labors soon. It looks like you will. So, so thank you for that. I know it's hard work, and I really appreciate all the work that you've done. So my question, it's really easy to like sit back and criticize and pick apart things from a distance and not having been involved in the process. So I'll totally own that. I'm sort of curious about like the beyond Lehigh component. Like, we're an institution, but we're also like a pillar of the community. You know, people look to us to like, you know, what is Lehigh doing that other people can mimic? And I think a lot of that might start with us, the staff and faculty, being able to like live more sustainable lifestyles because of the institution we work at. So This is a very specific question, but I think it kind of gets to maybe the larger thought process, which is like, I saw in the plan like 5 to 8 new EV charging stations. As we look at the campus as a whole, does that meet the need of potential EV drivers on campus? And is that a way to actually like incentivize more of the Lehigh community to drive EVs, thus making a larger impact in the institution?
Yeah, it's a good question, Brian. I can start and then others can jump in. So with that particular, I know that was just kind of one example goal that you pulled out. With that particular goal, the idea was to start adding additional charging infrastructure in locations where we don't currently have it. But yeah, 5 to 8 additional stations isn't going to cover obviously the campus. The idea is that in upcoming commuter surveys and other opportunities, we will be asking faculty and staff and students where, if they have an electric vehicle now, what would their preferred parking location be? If they were to get one in the future, what would it be? So that we can start to map out where the needs are on campus, so that we're not just throwing up, expensive charging infrastructure where we don't have the demand for it, and we'll be adding it, as we go into the future. And there was another part to that I was going to mention. Can't remember right now, but that's kind of my initial thought. But yeah, we're being strategic about where we're making these investments. The other piece was, something else that's under consideration is, how could we incentivize, faculty and staff that live in the South Side or live near campus or elsewhere to be purchasing a home or renting a home in the local area? And could there be like an electric vehicle incentive program where we provide a rebate or something? So these are just some of the ideas that are floating around as ways to continue to expand that going forward. We're also working on an alternative fuel study, which looks at Lehigh's direct transportation and is a switch to electric buses. Does that make sense? Is it hydrogen fuel cell? Is it a gondola? Is it, some other method, which I know, Brian, you're all about the gondola. So we're looking at both commuters, but also Lehigh's direct transportation fleet as well.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. We have a question from the chat. Has anyone heard about where the Bethlehem CoOp store will be located? It would be a great addition to the Bethlehem community and the Lehigh community. Anyone heard anything about that?
All I know is that it'll be on the north side. I don't know anything more specific. I was in a meeting where there were questions asked like, why wasn't it considered on the south side? There were challenges with parking for a grocery store like that, but I don't have any specific knowledge of where it is on the north side. I don't know if anyone else does. No, but we're excited for it.
I think maybe Katharine, you can tie in how, I think this was a little bit touched on Brian's initial question too, about how does Lehigh play in the greater Lehigh Valley context, and how you've been sitting on the city of Bethlehem's climate action strategy planning, committee and stakeholders committee. I think there's a lot to be said about how both the city of Bethlehem and Lehigh are working together to draw up an integrated plan that makes sense for not only the municipality level, but also Lehigh as a community that's a huge stakeholder in this plan. So maybe you can speak a little bit more to that.
Yeah, so the city of Bethlehem, as Lehigh's been creating a climate action strategy, so too has the city of Bethlehem. They actually started before Lehigh. So I've been representing Lehigh on a working group for the city. There's a number of faculty members at Lehigh who've also been involved in different working groups. I've been providing feedback on behalf of Lehigh to the city for their climate action strategy. as we started developing ours at Lehigh, we've included the city and Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, the Bethlehem Environmental Advisory Council member on our external advisory group, so that we make sure that we're hearing what they have to say and incorporating their input and feedback into our strategy as well. And we very much feel that Lehigh should take a leadership position, particularly as it relates to climate action. And that's what we're working on as part of our climate action strategy right now. But there's also a number of other places throughout our Sustainability Strategic Plan 2030 where you see collaborating with the city and other agencies, and resiliency planning is another great example. Like, it does not make any sense to just focus on Lehigh and Lehigh only in terms of resiliency planning. We sit in a much larger municipality, state, city, et cetera, and all of those factors need to be taken into consideration. So it's a really important part of the process.
Well, looks like we have a couple of minutes left. If anybody has any final questions before we let everybody go, feel free to share. Brian, I see your hand still up, so I don't know if you have a question or you forgot to put it down, but there you go. All right, well, I think I want to first thank everybody for joining us. Awesome presentation. I sit on a lot of these, and this is by far one of the best ones we've had to date. So thank you for all your hard work on that. And it looks like you put up some next steps. Katharine, do you want to share those real quick?
Great, thanks, Josh. Yeah, so as we wrap up the showcase, just wanted to highlight 4 key next steps. So really encourage you to review the 2030 plan with your colleagues, with your students. Consider how we can use sustainability principles at Lehigh to catalyze innovation and creativity for leadership among higher education and in the broader campus community. Determine ways that you can reduce your environmental footprint. So small changes can have a big impact. And then also encourage your colleagues and students to sign up for the next campus showcase, which will be a little bit different. It's March 17th at 7 p.m. We'll have an alumni panel. So instead of LSC members, we have 3 members of our Lehigh Sustainability Alumni Advisory Council. I'll also be giving an overview of the plan, but we'll be turning it over to those alumni to talk about how they've been shaping the plan. So with that, I want to thank you for joining this showcase today. It's a really exciting time for Lehigh, and we're looking forward to you being part of it. So thanks very much.
Katharine, I just want to remind everybody this presentation was recorded, so it'll be sent out. If they have specific questions, how can they reach out to you, Katharine? Just email, or what's best? Yeah,
email is fine.
Perfect.
You can reach out to either Audrey or me, or to our sustainability@lehigh.edu account, which Audrey just put in the chat.